What is up, guys? It's your boy Rickgackis, and today, or I should say yesterday, the brand new Equilibrium dungeon went live in Destiny 2 as part of the Renegades Expansion. And a brand new dungeon means a brand new dungeon exotic weapon. In this case, it's the Heirloom Exotic Combat Bow. It might look familiar because it's CHEWBACCA'S Boltcaster. But is it any good? Well, let's get started. Alright, now first things first, how do you actually get this weapon? Well, at the time I'm making this video, contest mode is still available, and it's going to be available until tomorrow at reset. If you can complete the dungeon on contest mode, you get the heirloom guaranteed. Otherwise, it's just going to be a rare, random drop for dungeon runs. Like at the final boss, you beat the dungeon, you have a small chance to get this exotic. And if you're wondering how to complete this dungeon, I've put out my complete Equilibrium dungeon guide. Check it out, it's linked right up above. So with that in mind, let's take a look at what this thing can actually do. Well, the first thing we need to pay attention to is the extremely unique properties of this weapon. So, it is classified as a combat bow. It will work with other combat bow mods. However, it's a special weapon. So already, most combat bows, in fact I think every other combat bow, is not a special ammo weapon. On top of that, pretty much every other bow has one round in the magazine. You shoot, reload. Not the heirloom. Not only does it technically not have a magazine size, but because it doesn't have a magazine size, the reload mechanism is that it's a heat weapon. So yes, just like the other blasters within Renegades, the heirloom operates on the heat generation system, where you can, be shooting this weapon and it will slowly reduce heat over time, even when stowed. But if you produce too much heat, if you're shooting it too much, then you will have kind of a traditional reload animation. With that being said, the heirloom, as you can see, also does have a perfect reload mechanic where if you hit reload just before it overheats, you get a much faster animation. So again, it says combat bow, but it really behaves unlike any other bow in the game. So, taking a look at the exotic intrinsic traits, it has Bolt Thrower. This weapon fires high-powered explosive bolts, strong against unstoppable champions, so built-in unstop stunning. On top of that, you have another unique trait here with Big Game Hunter. Aim down sights for a period of time to overcharge the next bolt fired. Increases damage and area of effect for each charge level. So, what does that actually look like in game? Well, it's this. When you aim down sights, you are going to see like a ramp build up, and there's going to be platforms, cutoffs of this ramp. So you're also going to hear an audio cue when you're doing this. Like it's going to be like, ooh, bing, 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 and like it's going, okay, that's maybe not the best impression, but it's going to tell you when you've reached each of the 3 different thresholds of this weapon. Now, very importantly, guys, it will actually generate heat while you are aiming down sights. So if you are going for that extra powerful blast, not only will you get a lot of heat generation when you actually shoot that fully charged up blast, but also just the process of aiming down sights will build it up. Now, in terms of, that heat buildup, you are able to, if you're fast, if you're not aiming down sights for too long, if you're releasing the trigger, if you're shooting it right when you reach that like upper echelon, you are able to hit 2 fully charged shots, and then that will put you right in the perfect reload territory so you can reload and get back to damage output. So what are we actually talking about in terms of these thresholds? Like how much damage are they going to deal? Well, let's start with absolutely no buildup. So this is just going to be a shot right away, and that's going to deal 1,005 damage. Don't pay attention to the 200,000 DPS number, guys. That's just because the impact and an explosion are super close together, so it thinks you're doing like a bungillion damage, but that's not the case. Anyways, guys, that is the initial damage, but then you have the first threshold, and for that, you're going to do 1,263 damage. Okay, then for the second threshold, as you can see, 2 ticks, you get 1,819 damage. Okay, and then for a maxed out shot, you reach the maximum threshold here, you are then going to deal 2,169 damage. That is more than double your initial damage. So that is a considerable improvement in damage, more than 100% damage increase for simply aiming down sights a little bit longer. Very importantly, guys, it doesn't matter how much you charge your shot, it's only ever going to use one ammo. So to put this damage into perspective, I'm going to shoot this target with a rocket launcher. The hiatus, we're taking off the damage increasing perks, guys. It's just a base rocket launcher shot, and that's going to deal 1,156 damage. So that means the first charged shot of your heirloom is gonna deal more damage than a base rocket launcher shot. So seemingly, that's actually crazy. I mean, like, that's a special weapon, and you can see I'm able to pop off these single charged shots very, very fast, right? But how effective is this really when you are using it in game? Well, you may have judged from the background gameplay, this exotic has some good things about it, but also some very disappointing things about it, unfortunately. Now, in using it, I really found that the radius is actually insane. If you can do a fully charged shot, and I think this footage right here really shows you, it absolutely has a big radius, especially for a special weapon. I mean, you are nuking enemies pretty far away from the point of impact. But the actual damage it deals is disappointing. And really, I think the best example is right here. I'm just up against a normal barrier champion, and guess what? I barely do any damage with a full charged shot. Now, by the way, in the Portal gameplay you're seeing, I did remember to take off Special Surge, so don't think I forgot Special Surge is on. No, this is just how this weapon is going to perform at a base level. And so, yeah, although when you could fully charge it and put it in the middle of a bunch of red bars, it felt really good, against the more powerful enemies, I was constantly surprised by how little damage I was actually doing. Now, this should come with a big asterisk beside it because there is an exotic catalyst for this weapon, and what the catalyst does is it adds a scorch effect and then also increases the damage of the heirloom against targets who have been inflicted by scorch. So whether that's the second shot of this weapon, or you're using your Hellion aspect and that's scorching the target, and then your shots are boosted in damage, you will be able to improve the damage of this weapon with its catalyst, but not by a ton, guys. In my testing using this thing before Renegades released, it was about a 10% damage increase, so that still really wouldn't make that big of a difference. Now, what's the positives? Well, the positives is that the ammo efficiency is actually crazy. Like, we do have a special weapon that is very much comparable to an actual rocket launcher, but when you pick up a brick, you get like 7 rounds for this thing. Like, again, ammo efficiency wise, especially if you're always using a charged shot, it is crazy. Like, it is 7 rounds of rocket launcher essentially is what you're getting if you do the charge. Now, of course, the downside is that you do have to do the charge, and so when we have any sort of conversation about DPS, you have to include that time where you're aiming down sights, and the fact that you can only get 2 fully charged shots off and then you have to reload is another big detriment. Now, there's still potential. I mean, certainly, if you have any bow synergies, there's exotics that affect bows. In the future, if there is a combat bow seasonal artifact perks, this is absolutely like one of the most unique ones that could pop off so easily with just even some of the combat bow seasonal artifact mods that we've seen in the past, you know, improving damage and so on. This thing could be crazy good with those. But again, my initial impression, having used it again before Renegades and now in the live game, is just that when I do that fully charged shot, I always feel like I should be dealing more damage than I actually do against these big yellow bar targets. Now, is that the fault of the weapon, or is it the fault of just the meta right now and how insane abilities are, and like you'd rather throw a nothing manacles grenade and that's gonna do 10 bagillion damage, but then your weapons do nothing? That's a whole other topic of conversation. But right now, again, I just felt like it didn't do enough damage for a full charge, but it's still a very unique weapon, and my initial impressions could be absolutely wrong, because like we really don't have anything even close to like this in the game. It's a heat generating multi-shot special ammo combat bow. Like where do you even begin to judge this on its full potential? Like it may be that in a month this is like a super meta weapon, who knows? But that's my first impressions. That's what this weapon does. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this video and found this interesting. If you did, please remember to help me out by simply rating and especially sharing this video. If you guys want to see more Destiny 2 content similar to this, don't be afraid to slap that subscribe button. If you want to get in touch with me and keep up to date with the latest channel activity, the best way is to follow me on Twitter at RickCackis, that is linked in the description down below. Again, I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, have a good day.